All right. This week, there are a lot of options out on the waiver wire to help us out. That doesn't pertain to quarterback. I like to give you help all I can. This week, it's tough. The best option out there is Daniel Jones, 9% owned. I don't love it. I don't think he's very good. I have been very aggressive in my thinking that he is not good. But the Bengals defense have been giving up some big games so far, and he's kind of the best option that is out there. So maybe keep an eye on Derek Carr's injury situation. They have I seem to recall them having a pretty good matchup. I didn't write it down, nor did I apparently lock it into the old memory box here. But that is one coming off of the injury late in the game. Yeah, they got Tampa Bay. That one I think could be a matchup that he is able to exploit a little bit. So I think that there is something you can take away from that one. So if Derek Carr is healthy and available, I would do that over Daniel Jones. But like Andy Dalton and some of the other ones, a lot of teams I have seen now, a lot of quarterbacks who are available, aren't very good. And a lot of teams have kind of scooped up some backups as this season has gone on. At wide receiver, we got a bunch. 20% owned. Alec Pierce. He made some big plays in the deep passing game. He is a little boomer bust, but whether it is Flacco or whether it is Anthony Richardson, this team really likes to push the football down the field. And so you are not going to get big target games for this kid, but he has, I think, some game-breaking ability. And so if you are in a spot where you need a home run swing this week, he's a pretty good home run swing to take. Trey Tucker of the Vegas Raiders at 18% owned. He's had at least 5 targets in each of the last 3 weeks. They are trying to get him the football. He is one of their, and I always hated these types, just get him the football in space and look what he can do. It's like, yeah, that's everyone, man. That's football. So like that analysis always bugged me, and that was the justification for taking a lot of players when it really shouldn't have been. But Trey Tucker is a very quick receiver, and I think that we are going to see maybe a little bit more of an expansion of his role as it becomes very apparent that Davante Adams isn't coming back for the Raiders, and so they're going to start to, I think, work him in as a legitimate number 2. Now, he's the obvious number 3 in the passing game behind Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, but he provides a speed element that those two guys, not that Myers is slow, or even Bowers being slow, but those guys don't have what he has. And also, they have run it with him a couple of times out of the backfield. I could see a little bit more because they do not have, like, the Thunder and Lightning. That was the old thing. They have 3 running backs that are all Thunder. They have no Lightning. And even the Thunder is just a little bit of a, like, there isn't, the running backs suck in Vegas is what I'm trying to tell you. And Trey Tucker, I think, I don't think he becomes a featured back or anything like that, but I do think that they look to get him the football a little bit more as the seasons go on. Michael Wilson, 13% owned. I keep telling people about this kid. At least 6 targets in the last 3 weeks, double-digit points in 2 of those 3 weeks. He is the clear number 2 receiver in Arizona, an offense that we have high opinions of and I think can continue to grow. So that is a player that I think really does help out some desperate teams and a guy that you can plug in right away. At 8% owned, it's Jalen Tolbert. This one, it feels like chasing with the Dallas Cowboys when he had the big game against Pittsburgh last week, but Brandon Cooks has been placed on the IR, and 10 targets is tough to ignore. So this is one that I think if you are desperate, you can put him right away. If you have the luxury, I would still pick him up and stash him and just kind of hope that maybe you can scout it a little bit and see what they actually do with him going forward. But I do think that he's okay talent-wise, and that offense needs something desperately. On the Kansas City side, I'm going Juju Smith-Schuster, 7% owned. Got a lot of work last week. That may have been a defensive game plan to try to take away whoever or whatever, but the defensive game plan didn't really work with the Saints last game. And yes, Kansas City is on a bye, so this is a stash. And even then, probably, and if you're desperate, because we have seen this movie before, I just do think that with Rice going down with the injury and Xavier Worthy maybe not necessarily being the refined route runner that Kansas City needs at this moment, I think Juju is going to have a lot of options now in this passing game. Moving on to the running backs. At 31% owned, it is Justice Hill. He's getting 48% of the snaps, and the game against Washington, again, should be a shootout this week. And I understand I kind of projected that last week, and we didn't necessarily hit the home run with it. So that is a little bit frustrating, for sure. But I still think that this is a player that has some value, especially for those who are a little bit desperate at running back. This one's a bit more of a stash because Minnesota is on a bye this week, but Ty Chandler at 28% owned. Aaron Jones a little bit banged up and is kind of just perpetually banged up. So even if Jones is healthy, I do think we maybe see a little bit more of Ty Chandler in this offense. He's a good football player. He's not great, but I do think that he is talented enough that if he gets the reins, he could be a really big player for this team moving forward. Tank Bigsby at 24%. Plain and simple, he looks like the better running back in Jacksonville right now. He is not getting close to as many looks as ETN, but it is shrinking a little bit. And I think everyone is seeing that Bigsby right now is at least a viable option for Jacksonville. And I think that this is a number that is going to rocket up. This one's a bit more projection-y. Actually, the next two are. Tyrone Tracy at 23% owned. After we did the show the other day, it came out that Singletary wasn't going to be in the lineup. And so Tracy took over, I guess. And I thought he looked pretty good. I thought that there was some real speed for him to the outside. I thought he ran it really hard. And I mean, he is significantly younger than Singletary. And for a Giants team, that is going to look to the future, I would say, that is certainly more Tracy than it is Singletary. So I think that this is a guy who gets more and more as the season goes along. Now, it could be a Chase Brown, Zach Moss situation, and we end up getting frustrated that the more talented back isn't getting the rock every week, or as often as we would like, but I do think that he is worth at least a speculative ad in most leagues. And Jalen Wright at 8% owned. Again, Miami is on the bye, but with HN banged up last week, he and Mostert really started. It was the only thing that was working for Miami was running the ball against the New England Patriots, and they did it with some success, and Jalen Wright did, and he looked fine. And so I think as that offense goes, this is not a bad option to have in a Jalen Wright. But again, this is much more of a stash because they're on a bye, and there's a chance when they come back, a chance healthy. But if you have some depth and you have some standings wiggle room, I think that Jalen Wright is a player you can absolutely trust. At tight end, the only one that was really jumping out was Zach Ertz, 31% owned. He had 8 targets last week, only converted on a couple of them, but they're going up against the Ravens, who have been giving up points to tight ends this year. And so I think Washington, again, this one screams shootout to me. So I think you can trust him with Jaden Daniels and helping them move the ball up the field against a Baltimore secondary that has been exposed at times this year. And on defense, I am surprised how many people dropped this defense on their bye week, but the LA Chargers against the Denver Broncos, that is one that you can pick up and probably roll with for a lot of the season and feel really comfortable. It is a talented defense. It is a very, very good defense, and one that I think will help you out in fantasy. So I think there is a real value in that ad this week.